The snowstorm roared across the mountains like a wild beast, and Adrian, a 30-year-old mechanic, thought it was just another cold, ordinary day. He had no idea that this night would push him into an event that would alter his life forever. Adrian lived in a quiet mountain town. He was a highly skilled mechanic who could fix anything, from cars to appliances. A few years ago, he moved to this small town with nothing but his savings and a dream. Using the last of his money, he set up a humble repair shop. Over time, he became a trusted figure in the community, always lending a helping hand when needed. The town was famous for its ski resorts, attracting visitors during the winter season. One of the newest additions was the Mirror View Hotel, a luxurious resort built by a big corporation. Whenever there was an issue at the resort, whether it was a broken heater or a stuck elevator, the staff would call Adrian for help. Winter had arrived, bringing its usual charm, but this year, a severe snowstorm warning loomed over the town. The locals were prepared, but many tourists, disappointed by canceled ski plans, packed up and left. Adrian received a call from the Mirror View Hotel that day, requesting urgent repairs to prepare for the storm. Wanting to finish before the weather got worse, Adrian headed to the hotel, unaware of what lay ahead. A dangerous road. Adrian worked quickly at the hotel, reinforcing windows with metal panels and securing loose structures. By the time he finished, the rain had turned to sleet, making the roads treacherously slippery. Adrian handed his invoice to the hotel staff and rushed to leave, determined to get home before the storm worsened. As he carefully drove down the mountain road, his headlights caught a sleek black car ahead. It was clearly unsuited for the icy conditions. Adrian's heart sank as the car suddenly lost control, sliding backward down the hill before slamming into a tree with a sickening crash. Adrian slammed on his brakes, pulled over, and ran toward the wreck. Inside, he found a young woman slumped over the steering wheel, unconscious. The airbags had deployed, but her fragile state worried him. He tried the driver's door, but it wouldn't budge. Rain poured harder, chilling him to the bone as he worked against time. Thinking quickly, Adrian opened the back door and adjusted the driver's seat so he could pull her out safely without worsening any possible injuries. Carefully, he carried her to his own car, keeping her neck supported. The rain blurred his vision, but his focus didn't waver. Racing against time. Once she was secured in the back seat, Adrian jumped into the driver's seat and tried to call for help. Frustratingly, his phone was dead. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. There was no time to waste. He started his car and drove as fast as the conditions allowed, his hands gripping the wheel tightly. The drive felt endless as Adrian fought through the storm. He silently thanked the tire chains for giving him traction on the icy road. When the paved roads came into view, he pressed the accelerator, desperate to reach the hospital in time. Finally, Adrian arrived at the town's hospital. He rushed inside, shouting for help. "There's a woman in my car, she's been in an accident. She needs help right now." Within moments, medical staff were outside, transferring the woman onto a stretcher and wheeling her inside. Adrian followed, his heart pounding. He watched as the emergency room doors closed, leaving him alone in the waiting area with his thoughts. Who was she? Why was she driving on such a dangerous road? Chaos in the hospital. Just as Adrian sat down, the hospital lights flickered and went out. The entire building was plunged into darkness. Nurses and doctors scrambled to assist patients using only flashlights and phone screens. Adrian stopped a security guard rushing by. "What's going on?" he asked urgently. The storm knocked out the power, the guard replied, his voice tense. The backup generator failed, and we're trying to fix it. Adrian's mind raced. He couldn't sit idly by. Take me to the generator, he said firmly. The guard hesitated but, seeing Adrian's determination, nodded and led him through the dark hallways. In the generator room, Adrian inspected the outdated machine. The motor assembly's fried, he muttered. But I think I can fix it. Grabbing tools from a nearby kit, he worked quickly, replacing burnt cables and short-circuited components. Sweat dripped down his face as he tightened the final connections. All right, try it now, Adrian said. The generator sputtered, then roared to life, restoring power to the hospital. Relieved, Adrian slumped against the wall, catching his breath. A miracle and gratitude. Returning to the waiting room, Adrian learned from the doctor that the woman had suffered a concussion and neck trauma but was now stable. It's a miracle you got her here in time, the doctor said, patting Adrian on the shoulder. You may have saved her life. Adrian felt a wave of relief wash over him, but his questions about the woman remained unanswered. Half an hour later, a man in his 50s burst into the hospital, his face etched with worry. Where's my daughter? He demanded. The doctor explained her condition, then turned to Adrian. This man saved her life and helped keep the hospital running during the outage. The man turned to Adrian, his eyes glistening with tears. You saved my daughter. I don't know how to thank you. A new chapter. The next day, Adrian received a visit from the man, who introduced himself as Matt Murray, the owner of the Mirror View Hotel. My daughter, Carrie, was coming to see me. If it weren't for you, Matt's voice faltered. He handed Adrian an envelope, insisting it was a token of gratitude. Inside was a check with an amount that made Adrian's jaw drop. Though reluctant at first, Adrian accepted, vowing to use it wisely. Within a week, he purchased a small home near his workshop, a dream he had held for years. For Adrian, that snowy night had been more than just a rescue. It was a reminder of the unexpected ways life could change, proving that acts of kindness could shape brighter futures. The crash. As Adrian descended the mountain road, his headlights illuminated a sleek black car ahead. Its tires spun uselessly on the icy surface. Adrian's stomach dropped as he watched the car lose control. It skidded backward, sliding dangerously close to the edge of the road before smashing into a tree with a loud, metallic crunch. Adrian immediately pulled over, his heart pounding. He grabbed his flashlight and ran toward the wreck. Through the shattered driver's side window, he saw a young woman slumped over the steering wheel, her long blonde hair spilling across her face. The airbags had deployed, but she wasn't moving. Miss? Can you hear me? Adrian called out, but there was no response. The driver's door was jammed, and the rain was coming down harder. Adrian rushed to the back door, managing to force it open. He reclined the driver's seat carefully to keep her neck stable, then gently pulled her out of the car. Rain lashed against his face, and his breath came in visible puffs as he carried her to his own vehicle. Every step was cautious, ensuring she wasn't further injured. After laying her on the back seat of his truck, Adrian checked his phone to call for help, only to find that his battery was dead. Frustration flared briefly, but he shook it off. He climbed into the driver's seat, muttering, "No time to waste," before starting the engine and heading toward town. A desperate race. The drive back was grueling. The storm seemed to grow angrier by the minute, with snow piling up on the road faster than Adrian's wipers could clear it. His hands gripped the wheel tightly, and he silently thanked himself for putting tire chains on earlier that week. Every few minutes, Adrian glanced at the woman in the rearview mirror. She remained unconscious, her face pale. "Hang in there," he whispered, though he wasn't sure if she could hear him. When Adrian finally reached the hospital, he jumped out of his truck and sprinted to the emergency entrance. "There's been an accident," he shouted. "A woman in my truck, she needs help." Medical staff rushed outside with a stretcher. Adrian helped transfer the woman onto it, his hands trembling slightly as they wheeled her inside. He followed them to the emergency room doors, but a nurse stopped him. "You'll need to wait here," she said kindly. "We'll keep you updated." Adrian nodded, his heart still racing. He sat down in the waiting area, drenched and shivering, his thoughts spinning. Who was she? What had brought her to the mountain on such a dangerous night? The blackout. Just as Adrian began to collect his thoughts, the hospital was plunged into darkness. The storm had knocked out the power. Gasps and cries of alarm filled the air as nurses scrambled to assist patients using only the glow of their phones. Adrian sprang to his feet and stopped a security guard rushing past. "What's going on?" he asked urgently. "The backup generator failed," the guard explained. "We're trying to fix it, but the maintenance crew is stuck because of the storm." Adrian's mind raced. He couldn't stand by while people were in danger. "Take me to the generator room," he said firmly. The guard hesitated but eventually nodded, leading Adrian through the darkened corridors. When they reached the generator, Adrian immediately spotted the problem: a burnt-out cable and a short-circuited motor. "I can fix this," he said, grabbing a toolbox. "But I'll need spare parts." The guard handed him a flashlight, and Adrian got to work. His fingers moved deftly despite the cold, reconnecting wires and replacing damaged components. Sweat dripped down his face as he tightened the last bolt. "Try it now," he said, stepping back. The generator sputtered, then roared to life. Lights flickered back on throughout the hospital, and a collective sigh of relief echoed through the halls. News of survival. Adrian returned to the waiting area, exhausted but hopeful. A doctor approached him, her face calm but serious. "She's stable," the doctor said. "She suffered a concussion and neck trauma, but you got her here just in time. You probably saved her life." Adrian felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Can I see her?" he asked. "Not yet," the doctor replied. "We'll let her family know as soon as they arrive." A father's gratitude. Half an hour later, a man in his 50s burst into the hospital. His tailored coat was dusted with snow, and his face was etched with worry. "Where's my daughter?" he asked the receptionist urgently. Hearing this, Adrian stood up. The doctor stepped in to explain the situation, and Adrian watched as the man's tense shoulders relaxed slightly. When the doctor mentioned Adrian's role in saving her life, the man turned to him with tears in his eyes. "Thank you," he said, his voice trembling. "You saved my daughter. I don't even know how to repay you." Adrian shrugged, embarrassed by the attention. "I just did what anyone would have done," he said. The truth revealed. The man introduced himself as Matt Murray, the owner of the Mirror View Hotel. "Carrie, my daughter, was on her way to see me. I told her not to drive in this weather, but she didn't listen." Adrian was stunned. He had worked for the hotel countless times but never imagined that the woman he had rescued was the owner's daughter. Matt reached into his coat and handed Adrian an envelope. "This is a small token of our gratitude," he said. "Please accept it." Adrian hesitated but eventually took the envelope, promising to use it wisely. A new beginning. The next morning, Adrian opened the envelope and was shocked to see a check for an amount larger than anything he had ever earned. He immediately called Matt. "This is too much," he said. "I can't accept it." But Matt insisted. "Consider it a thank you for saving Carrie's life and for fixing the hospital generator. You've earned it." With the money, Adrian finally realized a dream he had been holding on to for years. He purchased a small house near his workshop, a cozy home with a view of the mountains. It wasn't just a house, it was a symbol of hope and new beginnings. Adrian's life had changed in ways he couldn't have imagined that snowy night. He had acted on instinct, driven by compassion, and it had led to a brighter future, not just for him, but for everyone he had helped.